All right, welcome everyone to The Deep Dive. Today we're going to be diving deep into the world of, well, I guess you could call it mountain cow.
Mountain cow.
Yeah, that's a nickname for this animal, but
Hmm.
honestly, it doesn't do it justice at all. We're talking about the Baird's tapir.
Now that's a creature worth exploring. And hey, did you know it's Belize's national animal? It's kind of like, their equivalent of the bald eagle, but maybe a bit less majestic.
Yeah. Definitely more of a low-key kind of vibe. And speaking of low-key, these guys are practically nocturnal party animals.
Oh yeah, they're definitely night owls. We call them nocturnal and crepuscular, which basically means they're most active at dawn and dusk. It's a pretty clever strategy, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's got to be a good reason for it.
It helps them avoid the scorching heat during the day, and also it reduces their chances of running into any, unwanted encounters with predators.
Makes sense. Staying cool and staying safe. Now, for those of us who haven't had the pleasure of meeting a Baird's tapir in person, what exactly are we looking at here? What do they look like?
Picture this. A large, stocky animal, the biggest land mammal in its range, with this super distinctive long snout. It's almost like a shortened trunk.
Okay, I'm starting to see the mountain cow resemblance a bit more. But I've also heard them called gardeners of the forest, which sounds, well, a lot more peaceful.
It's a fitting nickname, actually. So these tapirs are herbivores. Their diet consists of mostly leaves and fruits. And as they munch on these fruits, guess what? They end up swallowing the seeds, too.
Ah, so it's all coming together now. They eat the fruit, travel around, and...
And nature's business takes care of the rest. Those seeds get dispersed throughout the forest in their droppings. They're basically planting a forest buffet as they wander.
So they're like natural seed-spreading machines. That's pretty important, right?
It's absolutely vital. This process helps to ensure a healthy diversity of plants in the forest, which in turn supports a whole ecosystem of other life. It's all connected.
Wow, that's amazing. So where can we find these roaming gardeners? What kind of habitat are we talking?
They're pretty versatile, really. You can find them in rainforests, lowland forests, even wetlands. Basically anywhere with dense vegetation and good access to water.
Water, huh? So it's not just for a quick sip. They actually hang out in the water quite a bit.
They do. They're surprisingly good swimmers, too. And, spending time in and around water helps them regulate their body temperature, especially in those hot climates.
Yeah, I guess a dip in the water would feel pretty good after a long day of, well, being a tapir.
Exactly. Plus, it's a good escape route if they need to avoid a predator. And they can even find some tasty aquatic plants to snack on. So it's kind of like a spa day, a safety net, and a snack bar all rolled into one.
Multi-purpose water, nice. All right, so we've covered the basics. Baird's tapir, Belize's national animal, expert gardener, skilled swimmer. But I know there's also a darker side to their story, right?
Unfortunately, yes. These incredible creatures are facing some serious threats to their survival. And the biggest one, habitat loss.
Right, because as humans expand, the wild spaces shrink.
Exactly. Deforestation for things like agriculture, logging, and urban development is really taking a toll on their natural habitat. It's forcing them into smaller and smaller, more isolated patches of forest.
So not only are they losing their homes, but also they're becoming more vulnerable because of it.
Exactly. It's like taking away their safe havens and their resources, which makes them much easier targets for predators.
And I know hunting is another issue.
Sadly, yes. They're hunted for their meat, and sometimes they get caught unintentionally in traps that were set for other animals. And all of this just puts more pressure on their already shrinking populations.
It's heartbreaking to hear that these amazing creatures are struggling because of, well, us, our actions. But I'm hoping there are people working hard to turn things around.
There are, and they're making progress. The Baird's tapir is now officially listed as endangered by the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and that's been a driving force for a lot of conservation efforts.
That's good to hear. So what's the game plan? What are some of the strategies being used to help these tapirs?
Well, habitat preservation is key. There are organizations and governments working hard to establish and maintain protected areas, like the Cockscomb Basin Wildlife Sanctuary in Belize. Those protected areas provide a safe haven for tapirs and other wildlife.
That's creating those safe spaces is like investing in their future.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's research. It's vital for understanding these animals, their behavior, their population dynamics, and the specific threats they face in different regions. That knowledge helps us to develop the most effective conservation strategies.
Right, so it's about knowing your enemy, or I guess in this case, knowing the threats and how to counteract them.
Exactly. And we can't forget about community education and outreach. By raising awareness about the importance of the Baird's tapir, we can help reduce hunting and minimize human-wildlife conflicts.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach. Protect their homes, understand their needs, and get people on board with their conservation.
You got it. It's a team effort, and every action, big or small, can make a difference.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the Baird's tapir, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this?
I want them to remember this. The fate of the Baird's tapir, like so many other endangered species, really is in our hands. We need to be aware of the threats they're facing and support the efforts to protect them.
Absolutely. Every little bit counts. So as we leave you today, we encourage you to think about how you can contribute to conservation efforts. Maybe it's donating to an organization that's working to protect them, or even just learning more about endangered species, or telling your friends and family about what you've learned.
Exactly. It all makes a difference.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. And remember, the future of the Baird's tapir and countless other species depends on what we do today. So let's make it count.